Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions regarding this watch. Today we're discussing one of the most sought mid-size Royal Oak models of all time. Technically, it's called the 14790ST, but to AP enthusiasts, this is the Yves Klein model, featuring a lovely lacquered pantograph cut dial. It's the traditional petite tapisserie, but it's also lacquered in a blue very similar to International Klein blue. It is a pigmented color using a combination of resin and ultramarine that Klein perfected during his short but prolific life. He lived from 1928 to 1962, so don't be under the impression that he owned one of these watches. The watch is nicknamed on the basis of the color of the dial, and it is incredibly vibrant. The watch is 36 millimeters in diameter, though it wears larger. More on that in a moment. And it has a D serial number that corresponds to the mid-1990s. We know this example was sold in 1999. 8.3 millimeters thick. It's 46.7 from lug tip to lug tip. From link to link, these little intermediate links, the rigid distance across the wrist is a more robust 50 millimeters. On my wrist, you can see why I always advise that a Royal Oak wears larger than its rated size. Frankly, that could be 39 or 40 millimeters. I would never have guessed 36 if I hadn't actually measured it, but you can see it's thin enough to fit underneath any sleeve, and because it is smaller, it's a great option for men and women who have a taste for slightly more wearable Royal Oaks. And in fact, on the wrist, it's almost indistinguishable from the 39. You could see that it's probably suitable for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and this down the barrel look. Here's over the top. Here's your cuff shot. This one's in really good shape. It's a full box, full paper watch, and you could see that it's been professionally and rarely refinished in its life. Look at the sharpness of the expanding bevel across the lug hood, and then that at all four corners. And then follow it down the shoulders of the links. It takes between 9 and 11 hours just to finish the bracelet of a Royal Oak, and you can see why. There are little details like the ends of the intermediate links being polished, and then you can see we have vertical satination on the sides of the links and longitudinal satin on the top. We have some removable links. They're fixed by screws, quite a few. You'll be able to find the right fit. You can see what these older style single fold AP clasps look like from the mid-1990s. We've got a single trigger release system. And so that's how this closes, and then closes securely. And then you pull the trigger, and you pop it right open, just like that. Rolling around to the case, bracelet fixed to the case using screws and bars. Good on you, AP. That's the right way to make an expensive watch. No spring bars here. The case is monoblock, meaning as intended by the original designer Gerald Genta, and at this point pretty much discontinued on every production variant. The Royal Oak was designed and built in its early decades with monoblock cases. So you can see how there's a mid case, but then you look at the case back, there's no seam between them. This makes the watch significantly more water resistant and also more expensive to build. And that's why I say you see less and less cases constructed like this. Even the Jumbo is no longer made like this, but the 14790 is. Screw down crown, 50-meter surface swimmable water resistance. You could see that if you've got a solid case back that's perma-bonded to its monoblock mid-case, everything loads through the front. That's why you have this little slot for the stem tube assembly and profile. The crown, it's hexagonal. It's a nod to the hexagonal white gold bolts, and they are bolts that sit in the bezel. Taking a quick look at them, you can see that all of them are recessed below the plane of the bezel. That's an important wear marker at Audemars Piguet. This one really illustrates it. Those white gold bolts should be below the plane of the bezel. The bezel features a satin outer face, a sloped and rounded polished aspect, and then top to bottom curtain-like satin polish. We have a dial that pegs the meter, but look at the inner bezel. How nice is that? It's mirror finished on its inner face. So this is the Yves Klein. It is the petite tapisserie. It is the hobnail of the smallest size. So in case you're wondering, petite tapisserie is what you find on this mid-size as well as the Jumbo. The grande tapisserie is what you find on something like a 41 millimeter Royal Oak. And then in general, on the modern offshores, you get the Mega, and the Mega is stamped. The important thing is the grand and the petite are both pantograph cut. So if you get really close, you can see the textures, The intermediate texture is between the hobnail of the pantograph cutting. It's a 19th century artisanal mimicry engine. But then we have this blue lacquer over it that gives it an electrifying look like synthetic ultramarine or like IKB, like the blue created by Yves Klein in his lifetime. That's why this watch is named after him. It's not because he owned one. Again, some people claim that online, but the fact that he died 10 years before the first Royal Oak was made would seem to obviate that potential. Taking a look, the logo, the indices, and the hands are all made of white gold, so they will not tarnish or oxidize over time. We're going to do a little bit of a lume fade here just so you guys can see definitively that this is a genuine aged tritium dial. It has a little burst of luminescence, but then almost immediately fades to black. So this is the real deal. It's common to have tritium dials intact. It's uncommon for the hands to still be present. So the watch is a center second Royal Oak, my favorite kind, because I think my watches should be a little bit more animated than a two-hand jumbo. It's a JLC base. You can see there's a combination of a hacking seconds function and then a quick set. And the JLC quick set is so snappy. I love that. Underneath that monoblock caseback, which you can see is a high D serial number, again, mid-1990s, we have what AP calls the 2125, which is derived from their 2124. So 2125 was a 3 hertz movement used in AP watches from 1987 to 1997. And it is an automatic winder with over 40 hours of power reserve. Less than 50, but more than 40 due to the lower beat rate. So 3 hertz again, a comparable JLC would have been 4. And it's got the stop seconds function, the quick set, it pivots on 33 joules. It's 5 position adjusted. It is an artisanally crafted, high horology, thin automatic. And remember, back when this watch was made, AP owned 40% of JLC, so there was a very special relationship between them. Hand finished inside and out with extraordinarily well-preserved case metal bracelet bezel. This is one of those electrifying, electric blue Yves Klein dials. Very hard to find. This and the Ferrari in the midsize Royal Oak. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.